conversation 1, the first goal is to pinpoint the negative dance, the demon dialogue that takes over your relationship when you lose the sense of safe connection with your partner. The second goal is to see how you pull your partner into this dance, because the dance is a circle. It can start anywhere with anybody. The third goal is to take charge, to begin to step out of these spirals of hurt and distance. Is your usual demon dialogue mostly a find the bad guy, attack salsa? A distant flee and freeze, nobody's risking minuet? The most popular protest polka is where one person is criticizing and demanding and the other busy and defending and withdrawing. Remember, the protest polka is called that because underneath all the anger and demands for different behaviors or fights over very pragmatic issues is a hidden cry for more emotional connection, a protest at the loss of loving contact.
I think things really started going wrong when my identity shifted completely. I became a new mom. We moved overseas to a place that was really dangerous, and I became totally dependent on Blair and really on another person for the first time in my life. Depended on him for our financial situation, but also for, I was totally isolated for all of my emotional needs, and he just really wasn't there for me.
It seemed like we were fighting all the time over silly things. I just couldn't figure out how to make her happy anymore. Nothing seemed to work. And then all of a sudden, the sex dropped off, and that was, a warning sign for me. And the intensity of the arguments was growing and increasing, and it just seemed like there was a sense of helplessness setting in. When our daughter was born, I think a lot of Arwen's attention naturally shifted towards her, but many times I felt left out of the relationship, and that I was in need of some attention too, and simply wasn't receiving that. And things got really bad. Seemingly out of nowhere, she would just drop this bomb, this nuclear weapon, and use the divorce word. And I felt like that was a major wake-up call, and she would go nuclear, and all I had to defend myself was like a penknife,
I wanted to change him. I wanted him to be more empathetic, and I wanted him to be more compassionate, and to know that that my feelings mattered.
Well, the change that I wanted in terms of going through this project was try and find a way to make Arwen happier, to rekindle our relationship, to get back to the amazing relationship that we had in the past. And, I was sad and exasperated, and I needed to find some new tools to help.
If I had been a fly on the wall in your house there then, and you had read Hold Me Tight, and I'd said to you, so the negative pattern you guys are getting caught in, how would you identify it? I mean, can you help me? What would it have looked like? Mm-hmm. When and then the more I, the more you, what would it have looked like then?
Well, when I ask for your understanding, you criticize me, I get angry, and I demand understanding, you shut down. And oftentimes I would shut down too, I would retreat. And we would be distant and cold, and then I would normally come slinking back and apologize for what you did, my perception of what you did, just to get the conversation going again, just to open up the lines of communication again.
And then the whole thing would happen again. Is that how you saw it too back then? Was the basic pattern you were caught in?
Yeah, I think that's essentially it. The specific issues would change, of course, but it would be
the same conversation.
Essentially the same, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Although, of course, I didn't see her as slinking back. I mean, I felt that I was right. But, yeah.
But that was really what you guys identify as the beginning of a real negative pattern in your relationship that got in the way of your closeness. But now you're not under so much stress. You've come back to Canada.
Yeah.
So it's morphed a bit now, hasn't it?
It has.
This negative pattern, when I asked you to have a look at it, it's kind of changed a bit.
Yeah.
It still somehow feels, to me, a bit like the protest polka, because you're saying, where are you? And you're saying, oh, do be more reasonable and don't be so needy, right? But it's changed a bit. It's got some more distance in there. So how do you see negative patterns, the negative pattern you're in now?
There's damage that's been done. It's now we can characterize it as a protest polka, but that is morphing into a freeze and flee type environment. It usually starts with Blair criticizing me. Often he's said, clearly we're back in Canada and you're still unhappy, so nothing will make you happy ever. You expect too much, you want too much, and clearly nothing I do will ever make you happy.
So it starts, okay, so that's how it starts now, and then what do you do?
Then I just shut down. I realize that, we've been through this before. There's nothing I can say that will stop the criticism, and so I shut down, I move away, and
when you shut down and move away, what do you do now, Blair?
I don't pursue.
You don't?
No. Because that wasn't my traditional role. I'll shut down too, and then we'll both sort of be frozen for a while, and eventually it will thaw, and we'll get back to sort of a regular pattern of interaction. Nothing intimate or anything.
I think that my fundamental issue is that I don't feel that Blair empathizes with me. I don't feel safe enough to even have a normal conversation about, the challenges of my day. Going back to work after 2 years in a hostile environment has its stresses.
Right. So you've moved from, it may not be as urgent, you may not be sort of standing up and yelling anymore, but basically you're still feeling like he's not there for you. But how you're dealing with it now is you kind of move away. That's what you do?
Yeah.
And the more you move away, the more you try to persuade her sometimes, and sometimes ask for sex, and sometimes get mad and critical.
Yeah.
Am I kind of getting it?
And I think Arwen has also turned to our daughter for a lot of emotional comfort.
Right.
And as a result, I've felt a little more isolated, and then she will use that as a reason for why she's too tired or exhausted to make love that
So there's a
particular
whole
evening.
thing about the baby in here, and I think actually you mentioned something to me when we first talked about your relationship, about that it would go with you saying, let's make love, and and you saying, oh, I'm all touched out, right? And that's from the baby too, right? So if you were going to do that exercise in the book now, the more about the present cycle, the present way it's got going, it would be what? Blair, why don't you start? The more I... What?
Do you want to read your notes?
Yeah, I mean, we actually wrote it down because
Did you?
We're very good students.
So, I'll just start with it picks up perfectly from what you were just saying, and so the more Arwen says that she's all touched out from being a mother, and that she doesn't want to have sex, the more I feel that I'm not connected to you.
Now the way it works in the relationship is, before on the assignment, Arwen was saying, where are you, where are you, where are you? And you didn't understand, and you were saying, come on, get it together. And she experienced you as critical and shut down. But now, right, you still get into that critical space, but it's like you're trying to say to her, come on, come closer, include me, let's make love, right? And because of the past hurts, that's hard for you to hear. And so when he invites you, you just shut down now. Is that right? Because you've got these past hurts, and didn't feel, still the feeling of not being taken care of resonates.
Yeah, and not being empathized with.
So does that fit for you, the pattern now that you get caught in? Because it's moved more to being about sexuality.
It has, and interestingly, Blair and I wrote our notes separately. We read the chapters separately, and then we compared notes, and they were identical. So I guess it's a good thing we're married to each other. I mean, so my notes say, when you criticize me, say that I want too much. I'm never happy, never satisfied. I do not feel safely connected to you. I tend to freeze. I refuse sex or make excuses not to give you physical intimacy. I move in this way in our dance to try and cope with difficult feelings and find a way to change our dance. I want to teach you that you can't be critical and unempathetic and then expect me to want to have physical intimacy with you.
That's what you're trying to say to him when you turn away. It's almost like trying to say to him, I still feel criticized by you, and I still feel like you're sort of distant from me. Yeah. And so you can't now turn and ask me to let you in. Is that what you're trying to say to him around sex?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So I do this in the hope that you'll understand that I need more empathy and understanding, but it doesn't work. When I've asked you explicitly for more empathy, you tend to respond positively at the time, but that doesn't translate into long-term change in your behavior. It lasts maybe a couple days, and then we go back to an uncaring Blair.
And the more you step back, I guess the more frustrated and outside you feel, and the more you try to flip back into being critical and trying to persuade her to not be so difficult. Am I kind of getting it?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's pretty much it, Sue.
Yeah.
So tell me something. Do you feel it's given you a sense of what's happening in this relationship and how you both get caught up in this? Is it helping you to understand the kind of dance that you're caught in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It allows you to step back and to see that there's a recurring process at play, because you tend to otherwise just treat them as singular episodes. Yeah. And it gives you a bigger picture. And then you can find the commonalities, within all of these fights or these protests and these episodes of loneliness. And it allows you to do sort of a diagnostic on your relationship and say, and this is me talking as the problem solver,
That's okay.
Because I always thought, that Arwen just wanted me to try and help her solve her problems. But in reality, what she really wanted, especially when we were overseas, confronted with all these strong emotions and worry, and a sense of insecurity, was really just emotional support and empathy, and not necessarily fixing the problems.
She wanted you.
Right, and because those were out of our control in any event.
And you didn't understand that what she wanted was you.
Right, and I think it's incredible how these things, the needs, become lost in the dance and the dynamic, and it becomes twisted around to the point that you can't decipher what the person really is needing or intending or trying to say or wants from you. Yes. Because the vortex twists it and mangles it all around into something unrecognizable.
Since we've started reading the book and doing the exercises, and identifying this dance, and giving it a name, we can use Blair's sense of humor to our advantage now, rather than it just being part of the dance. We can really stand back and say, well, what you really need is empathy, and what you really need is sex. So why don't we just get over ourselves? We're both lonely, and just deal with this from a partnership perspective.
That's
as opposed to
huge leap. Oh, well, you've taken about 5 huge leaps there. Okay, let's just stay with the first little step here. What you're saying is,
I think we can recognize when we're caught in the pattern, and we can at least say what you did, which is, hey, there's a lot more here going on than just this horrible pattern we're caught in. Yes? That's a huge step, to be able to see your pattern and just recognize that you're both hurting in it. I mean, I feel like if you can do that, we're right on target. Right?
And it becomes an automatic knee-jerk reaction, you know, because you get so good at the dance and you don't realize it. And when I was starting the exercise, all of a sudden I started writing something critical about Arwen. And then I reread the instructions and I said, oh, just whatever you do, don't make something critical about the other person. You know, talk about in this way your feelings, how it relates to you. Because we always tend to
and what
focus.
You do in the dance.
Yeah. And, you know, as you had said previously, our eyes are looking out, not inwards. And so we're always focused on what others are doing to us, not necessarily what we're doing to others. And so I quickly had to scratch that part out and sheepishly, you know, start again. And but it's that in and of itself, you know, helps you break the automatic nature of this thing.
And if we do keep going down this road, we're going to be in a lot more trouble. So, you know, I had sort of almost discounted Blair's need for physical intimacy as something that's not realistic in a marriage. But I realized that it is very important, and
it's his way of reaching out.
It is.
It's his version of, you know, and men have, I think, been taught to ask for sex, women have been taught to ask for emotional closeness.
Exactly.
It's his version of, Arwen, where are you? And, you know, you sort of miss that now, whereas when you were on assignment, you were saying, please fix the gate, but you were also saying, Blair, Blair, where are you?
Yeah.
And he missed that one.
Yeah.
That's good, guys. Okay, that's good. You're really figuring out where you're stuck, right? And that's the first step to getting unstuck.